Hello, Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Camp, President and CEO of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce, here for another one of our candidate interviews. This time we have County Recorder candidate Cole Button here. Cole, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So kind of starting off, what do you see as the top issues for Pottawattamie County and how will you address them if elected?
So there are a lot of issues associated with Pottawattamie County, but the ones that would more pertain to the recorder's office would obviously be very different than the ones that the supervisors would handle, obviously. But I'd say the biggest one that people are most concerned about, obviously, these days are property taxes. So what we could do from the recorder's perspective to try to help with property taxes is try to make the office as efficient as possible. That way, the supervisors don't have to supply us with as much funding to conduct the business that we have to within the office. So if we can make it so they don't have to spend as much money to fund the county's operations, then they wouldn't need to raise as much in property taxes, and then they could use that to lower the levy rates. So that's probably the biggest thing that people are concerned about right now from a county-wide perspective.
Well, thanks, Cole. It's always nice to keep a close eye on the taxpayer dollar. That's always a good topic. And then looking ahead at kind of some of the state issues. So obviously you kind of focused on what some of those issues are that are more applicable or pertinent to the recorder's office. But from your perspective as a recorder candidate, what do you think is the biggest issue at the state level and how will you address it or advocate for or against it if elected to the recorder's office?
Well, obviously, the recorder's office doesn't deal a whole lot with state issues. That's more of a legislative position. But I could say from past experience, something I have done in a different capacity with the Iowa Young Republicans was I worked with our local legislator, Representative Jacobson, on a LEAD K bill, which was providing resources to parents of children with hearing disabilities. That's obviously a big issue for Pottawattamie County having the Iowa School for the Deaf. So that's obviously not something I would do as recorder, but from past experience, I could tell you that that is something that I've advocated for in the past was the LEAD K bill. And we're very happy to say that that's passed the House and Senate with bipartisan support. And the governor should be hopefully signing it before the end of this session.
Well, thank you, Cole, and thanks for mentioning that. As you noted, Iowa School for the Deaf, obviously a big entity here within the region board at the state level, but obviously here in Council Bluffs. Mm-hmm. When you look to, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I just said absolutely.
And then when you look at opportunities that you see kind of on the outline years for the county, what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities for the county going forward, and how do you envision yourself, if elected recorder, being able to assist in those?
So the biggest things that the recorder can do to help with the county is trying to make the office as accessible as possible and trying to make the services as accessible as possible. And again, doing whatever they can financially to make our county as affordable as possible. So from an accessibility standpoint, biggest thing I want to do is try to, one, focus on trying to get as many services available online as possible. And a second thing was was Mark Brandenburg and I, he's the outgoing county recorder. He and I both been advocating for a long time to get the recorder's office expanded over to Avoca. And now they will shortly after I announced my candidacy, they decided to start implementing that. So that'll be a positive change that I'm glad is coming to the county. So that'll make it easier for people on the eastern end of the county to get to the recorder's office, to get the services that they need. Because obviously, Pottawattamie, we're the second largest county by square footage. So accessibility is a big thing.
Most definitely. And that's something I've heard in talking to folks who have to campaign throughout the entire county. Having that accessibility, especially in the rural part on the east side, is definitely a welcome thing.
It's taking a lot of gas, which these days is very expensive now. So
it's a different conversation. But when we look at opportunities to partner with the chamber, obviously, we're a business advocacy organization, as you know. So how do you envision you and the recorder's office, if elected, being able to work with and partner with the chamber and the business community?
So obviously the business aspect, a lot of realtors are that's an industry that utilizes the recorder's office quite a bit. So say you're going to go to the recorder's, or say you're going to buy a property, you, or more accurately, your realtor, would go to the recorder's office to request any public records associated with that property, so that you can know if there are any liens against it, or if there's what all history exists in that property, so you can make a fair evaluation if you put in an offer. So probably the biggest thing is trying to do whatever we can within the recorder's office to make it as easy as possible for businesses within the community to access the information they need.
And along those lines too, as far as partnering and just being able to utilize some of your skill sets, what unique skills do you think you can bring to the position of county recorder?
So my background is in finance. I graduated from Iowa State with a degree in finance. And shortly after graduating, my wife and I bumped into Mark Brandenburg at the recorder's office when we were going to get our marriage license. And I'd known Mark since high school. I actually used to be a page of his back when he was in the legislature. So he's known about my political background and my financial background. So he walked up to me and asked me if I would be interested in being his successor when he retires as county recorder. So I started job shadowing Mark years ago, and I got to learn the ins and outs of the office and see all the accomplishments that he's made. And I got to learn the daily operations of recorder. So I think that's a unique skill set that I have, was getting that unique opportunity to job shadow the county recorder. And because of that, I'm also proud to be the only candidate endorsed by Mark Brandenburg to be his elected successor.
Well, thank you for noting that, Cole. Experience and direct knowledge and interaction with someone on the job is always a good thing. So I appreciate you sharing that. And kind of the last thing I always like to ask, just to make sure that you're able to say anything you may not have been able to say in any of the other questions, is why do you think voters should cast a ballot for you in the June 7th primary?
Well, I think I kind of touched on that in the last question, but I'll just repeat that. One, I have a lot of experience with both finance. I study budgets and financial analysis for a living. That's my day job. Is I study balance sheets and income statements and statements of cash flow. So financial analysis is something I'm very confident and comfortable with. I also have all the experience of job shadowing the county recorder, Mark Brandenburg. So that really gave me a good idea and handle on the daily operations as recorder. And I'm also proud to also be the only candidate endorsed by our county sheriff, Andy Brown. Big thing that I also wanted to focus on was trying to work on making the office, trying to do whatever we can to help support our first responders. One of the first things that Mark did when he was elected county recorder was he started waiving certain processing fees for for police. So I want to look into, can we expand that to all first responders, and what else can we do, in any way possible to show our support for them. So I'm proud to also be endorsed not only by Mark Brandenburg, but also by our sheriff, Andy Brown, as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you have a personal attachment to the law enforcement field, correct, as well?
Yes, my dad has served as an Iowa police officer for over 30 years.
Okay.
So very close.
Yeah, very close to home. Huh? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, Cole, those are all the questions that I have for you. I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us for this candidate interview, and best of luck on the rest of your campaign.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.